This game between two gladiators in the round 8 of the candidates was a spectacular game. In their last three encounters in classical chess, Hikaru had a good record against Fabi. He had won all his last three games. So he's going into this with a good feeling. Hikaru starts with e4, and we have the Ruy Lopez, the Spanish. And now a6, bishop a4, knight f6, we have the open Spanish. d3, bishop c5, castles, d6, and c3. All normal stuff in the Ruy Lopez. Castles, and here rook e1, knight e7, and here comes knight d2. The normal rerouting of the knight. And here Fabi nicely reroutes his knight to g6, preparing to jump in with knight f4, along with his knight and the queen. Hikaru also does it, knight f1, and now Fabi strikes in the center. So position is pretty much even Stevens. I mean, Hikaru has sort of won the opening battle. I mean, Fabi spent a lot of time in the opening after Hikaru's choice of the Spanish. And here takes. The queen takes is also an option, in which case he has to live with bishop b3. Queen will have to move, and the knight will continue its journey. But yeah, Fabi chose knight takes d5, bishop b3 anyway, c6, and d4. Hikaru strikes in the center. He's okay with having an isolated pawn. That's what happens. Takes, knight f6. He doesn't take instantly because queen will take back. He doesn't even get the isolated pawn for giving up a bishop for a knight. But yeah, knight f6 and now h3. Hikaru is welcoming this exchange if Fabi wants to go for it. And Fabi wants to go for it. So Hikaru is okay with the isolated pawn, but he has the bishop pair. This bishop can be very useful, yeah, on the king side. Knight d5 back, bishop c2, bishop e6, knight g3, knight f4, rook e4. So even though black has a very nice looking knight on the f4 square and a bishop and the queen that can jump into h4, it is white who is in a more comfortable position because this bishop is good and this rook is now active and he has the e file. So this is one of those games where a knight on f4 is not a knife. It's not as sharp because white's pieces are more menacing because of the bishop pair. Here, knight went to d5 and now a3, stopping knight b4, so that he can play queen d3 with peace of mind without worrying about knight d4. Rook e8, bishop d2. So his idea was to play queen d3, but I suppose something stopped him. What was it that he didn't like about queen d3? I'm not very sure actually. Bishop d2 was the choice. Hikaru must have explained this in his post game video. So after bishop d2, knight f6, bishop g5, h6, takes, queen d2. So you can see that the position is very comfortable for white. All the pieces are on good squares and the e file control is good. Rook e3. This is a move that totally surprised Fabi because here he took 20 minutes with just 33 minutes on the clock and Hikaru having 35. After rook e3, he went into a big thing. I mean, he must have probably expected some queen move, either exchange or move, but rook e3 came out of the blue. It's one of those moves that the computer doesn't like that much, but practically this is a very nice choice because now without the queen exchange, the rooks can double on the e file. The bishop is open, so queen d3 can come and knight fi can come. All these ideas are opened up with this rook e3 move. Now Fabi, after 20 minutes of thought, is down to 13 minutes and he plays knight f4. Again, this knight is just a superficially active piece. These pieces are good enough to ward off any threats on the king side. Sacrifices are not going to work because white has a rook here and everything is defended. So here h4, a very nice move by Hikaru. This is where Hikaru takes the game by its horn. And the point of this pawn sacrifice is queen takes pawn. If that happens, rook e4 comes. Now black has only one way to save this knight, which is g5. And now white has a comfortable position because white can double on the e file, and black's queen is totally out of play. It's stuck. How do you get out of this? Now queen e3 and slowly white's pieces can creep in, and there's nothing black can do about it because the black queen is stuck over here. So this particular formation does not help black. So Fabi thought for a while. Actually, he didn't think. He just played it within 15 seconds. He didn't take the pawn. He went to d5, which is the correct choice, threatening mate, by the way. And here Hikaru chooses another move, sort of pinning himself with rook e4. But he's making a threat on the knight. So knight went to g6 and now rook e1. White's piece is a good lead. Knight f8, rook e5. Queen is getting kicked around. h4 is again hanging, but now h5. And by the way, a few moves back, like here, after queen d5, rook e4, there is this idea of a sacrifice. Knight takes g2, sacrificing a full piece. The point being, there is f5. If you take this f5 and black wins. But the problem with that move is now after knight takes g2, white will just ignore it and white will just play something like queen c3. Why queen c3 and not queen d3? So that after bishop h3, defending the knight, there is no rook takes rook or queen takes rook can be met with bishop takes if the queen is on c3. That is why queen c3 would be a better choice. And after queen c3, bishop h3, because the knight's hanging. Now king h2 attacking the bishop, but the knight will escape. But then the g file becomes a new avenue for white. And white's king is super safe. The pieces are a little loose for black. f4 is sort of hanging, but queen g2 is stopped. So f4 is now really hanging. And if the knight moves, bishop hangs. So this becomes very comfortable. So black has to find only moves, queen d6, defending the knight. But here there is an option of playing rook takes, queen takes, and king takes. And white's already in a winning position. Two pieces for the knight with an active rook. King is sort of safe. So that is why the sacrifice knight takes g2 was not pleasant for Fabi. Fabi goes back and after rook e1, knight back, rook e5, queen back, h5, saving the pawn and keeping a grip on the king side. Bishop d7, and now takes, knight f5. Now white's knight jumps to the desired f5 square. Queen f6, queen b4. Hikaru was playing really well here. I mean, he does not just think about the king side, he goes to the queen side with threats in the air. Knight e7 is a huge threat. So b5 and Fabi fell for knight e5, knight e7 check. So can he find the finish? If king moves, where is the finish? It seems like this is sort of defended. What are we going to do? We just need to move the knight and threaten mate. I mean, threaten to take the knight for free. And then the bishop. So where is the best place to move this knight? Just knight d5, attacking the queen. Queen has nowhere to come and defend this knight, which means after you take it, you will get checkmated there. Not there's a bishop over here, so it's not about taking the other piece. Queen f8 is a mate threat, which means the queen is gone. I mean, you can try c5, but after queen takes, you will not have many options. Knight d7 is still there, but you lose too much material. Knight f6, knight takes, and rook takes. Too much material. So here, after knight d5, Fabi resigned, and Hikaru won a deserving game. I mean, he played so well. He sort of has Fabi's number. I mean, last four encounters, he has got a win against Fabi. So Fabi goes down to 4 points. I mean, he stays on 4 points, and Hikaru now just creeping up. He's on 4.5, just half a point behind the leaders with 6 rounds to go. And some of those games will be against the lower rated or the ones on the lower part of the table. So this is going to be very close. Hikaru missed out last time from playing the World Championship, but this time he is so close. He's within touching distance. Only factors he has to take care of are Nepo and Gugesh. Gugesh is inexperienced, but Nepo has very good experience playing the candidates at the top level. So this is going to be a very nice finish for the candidates tournament this year.